The Bluebell Railway's history is one of sheer tenacity, perseverance and vision. These qualities have proved essential to the preservation of the many steam locomotives based here, but also in continuing to improve and expand the line itself. The plan to expand the line north towards East Grinstead was first mooted in 1971, and so began a long series of negotiations to secure the land and obtain planning permission. In 1988, the extension began its first phase, and 6 years later, Kingscote Station was within reach. The demands of this ambitious plan included making good 780 yards of the Sharpthorne Tunnel, replacing Coombe Bridge, installing signalling, restoring Kingscote Station, as well as the arduous task of clearing and laying the track itself. The amount of man and machine hours required was great, and the Bluebell's own steam power proved its worth. Normandy, a B4 class designed by William Adams for the LSWR, is an extremely powerful four-wheel dog shunting engine. In 1893, Normandy was one of a consignment of 10 engines built at 9 Elms for work at Southampton docks. With its short wheelbase and outside cylinders, it was very successful at its duties. Based and restored at the Bluebell, it was ideal for the stop-start work involved in track laying. Shunting the necessary materials from hoisted canes to the building team, Normandy passes up and on to the beginning of the freshly laid track from New Coombe Bridge. Known as Phase 4, work on this part of the line had begun in earnest in December of 1993. Though hampered by terrible weather conditions at the beginning of 1994, work continued. Drainage cleared, ballast laid, sleepers, chairs and rails put in place, the efforts of the many volunteers continued unabated. From a virtual quagmire, the last phase into Kingscote pushed ahead. Despite delays and restrictions, nearly two-thirds of the proposed extension into East Grinstead was nearing its completion, and another landmark in this ambitious scheme was due to be celebrated. On the 23rd of April 1994, almost 10 years after its purchase by the railway, the once derelict Kingscote station was to play host to its first passengers since its closure in May of 1955. After rounding the gentle bend into Kingscote, locomotive number 592, the Wainwright C, pulls triumphantly into the station. It was a moment to savour for all those who'd put in years of dedicated work to reach this point, and especially for the Kingscote team, whose efforts had converted the station from its sorry state into one fit for welcoming the Bluebell Railway's numerous visitors. The footplate crew of 592 was the husband and wife team, Mick Blackthorne driving and Heidi Moforth firing, with John Harmsworth making up the third man. Between them, they brought the 92-year-old locomotive and its 6 coaches from Sheffield Park into Kingscote only 10 seconds down on its allotted time of 34 minutes, even though the train had actually left 2 minutes late. An excellent achievement in itself. Later in the year, while preparing for steam, Russell Pearce, chairman of the Bluebell Railway Preservation Society, took a few minutes to talk about the line.
The railway was first closed in 1957, and then due to the efforts of a local resident was reopened for another 2 years. Finally closed in 1959, and a meeting was called in Hayward Heath by a group of people who wanted to try and save the line from Lewis Street to Queen. And the Bluebell Railway Preservation Society was set up at that meeting. Negotiated with the British Railways Board, and ultimately took over the line from Sheffield Park to Hornsey Keynes and ran its first trains in 1960. So next year will be the 35th anniversary of the line and the society. There's a working fleet of about 8 to 10. So the overall collection now is in the region of 35 to 40. It's difficult to remember exactly how many. So we try and keep about 10 in traffic at any one time if we can. Probably about half the collection is in private hands, here under an agreement for us to provide facilities for the restoration to take place, and then to be used on the railway for a period of time. Others belong to us, and some are visit and come and stay for a few months and then go again. All the running of trains is undertaken by volunteer members of the society. For the purposes of operating the railway, there is a company, and the company employs about 40 staff, both in the workshop here on the permanent way, some working on the station in an administrative capacity, others in the carriage shed, and the buffet is largely run by paid staff. During the course of a year, you'd probably see about 2,000 faces on the site. Not at any one time, they're not all here at once, but about 2,000 people come and actually take part in some aspects of the railway over a 12-month period. It's always been a long-term aim of the society to regain a connection with British Railways at East Grinstead. We've been progressing that over the last 10 or 12 years, culminating this year in opening the line to Kingscote and inaugurating a connecting bus service to East Grinstead. And we're now looking at negotiations with remaining landowners to take over the remaining mile and a half of track bed, with the intention of ultimately having a station at East Grinstead. After that, well, we're not quite sure. Starting to lay track in 1990, we've taken 4 years to get to Kingscote. The next 4 to 6 years will hopefully see us in East Grinstead. There's still a lot of work to do there. 11 landowners to be negotiated with, one of whom is West Sussex County Council, who own a refuse tip. So that's got to be purchased and cleared by us. That's 60 foot deep by I don't know how long, about 1/4 of a mile. So there's a lot there to be run. The other structure on the line that was in private hands is the viaduct just outside East Grinstead Station. That was recently handed over to us for a nominal figure by then Network South East, part of divesting themselves of liabilities as much as anything. So we've got those more or less in the bag. The County Council have agreed in principle to sell us the tip. We've got the viaduct, but there's still 11 landowners to talk to.
With goals reached and more plans being made, the everyday running of the railway continues. Early morning at Sheffield Park. Having built up enough steam pressure, 592 is moved over a works pit. Here, the driver has easy access to be able to check and oil the locomotive's running gear. In the meantime, the fireman can be heard injecting water into the boiler. The other locomotive preparing to steam is the not so elegant but highly efficient Q1. Both of these engines are unique, as they're the sole survivors of their respective class into preservation. After making sure that all's in order, the driver blows down, releasing any pollutants from the boiler. Having banked away from the yard, the 592 is run chimney forward up line from Sheffield Park, as are all the locomotives on the line. Stopping to collect the guard as well as the single-line train staff, the engine will run light to Horsted Canes to collect its carriages before returning to Sheffield Park to begin its first through run of the day. With the extension complete to Kingscote, the Bluebell Railway now runs from its southernmost station, Sheffield Park, stopping at Horsted Canes and on into Kingscote, a single trip of a little over 9 miles. Having been checked over, C1, or Charlie 1 as the austerity is known, backs away from the running shed siding. The line of condensation that can be seen on the tender clearly indicates the water level. The signalman will then allow the locomotive to cross over onto the main line to run up and then back on to the station loop so that it can collect its carriages. The signal box contains a complete chart showing all points, signals and number of levers by which they're operated. Each lever is painted so as to have easy identification of their function. Having banked onto its coaches, the Q1 is given the all clear by the starter signal and begins the 5-mile journey to Horsted Canes. The rear carriage seen on the Q1's train is unique and was the director's saloon from the Great North Railway. Shunting at Horsted Canes, locomotive number 323 is a Wainwright-designed P-class. These diminutive engines were originally intended as push-pull trains and for light branch work. Later, they were used as shed pilots and for light shunting. In 1960, 323 arrived as the railway's second engine and was named Bluebell. 592 waits at Horsted Keynes, the austerity runs up from Sheffield Park. The strictly functional 060 Q1 class was designed by Oliver Bullard to meet the requirements of a country at war. Its stark simplicity belies its powerful internal workings. A masterpiece of engine design, Bullard discarded everything that was deemed unnecessary in order to produce a locomotive capable of high power while not using any excess metal in its construction. Though deemed unsightly by traditionalists, the Q1 proved an excellent and generally reliable unit. With its massive boiler and firebox, Stephenson link motion and long lap, long travel valves, the engines were free running. Capable of travelling up to 75 miles per hour, though not pretty to look at, it was an incredibly useful machine. Having reached the top of a 1 in 75 climb, C1 eases off steam and pulls right off the single track onto 3 Road to arrive at the up platform at Horsted Keynes. A large station with 2 island platforms and a third one on which the station house and main buildings are situated, it beautifully presents the appearance of a mid-1930s Southern Rail station. The guard waves all clear to the driver, and 592 starts its journey back down to Sheffield Park. Alongside the track, a few men work on replicas of Southern Rail signal posts, which in completed form can be seen to the right and left of C1 as it waits for the all clear to proceed to Kingscote. Leaving Horsted Canes, the austerity engine begins a steady uphill climb to New Combe Bridge, after which the track begins a gentle descent. Since 1992, the locomotives had been able to run the up line through the Sharpthorne Tunnel, near the site of the old West Hoathly station, and then come round a loop just prior to New Combe Bridge. Now another 2 miles of track lies ahead. At Sheffield Park, 592 has run around its carriages and is gently reversed on.
Oh, good.
The driver sets his timing before welcoming a young enthusiast onto the footplate.
Can you get down level with these one and just film something?
Driver Jock Mackay sets the steam-driven valve gear ready for the off. This type of steam-power-driven valve gear was later favoured by Bullard and used extensively on his streamlined Pacific locos. The driver sets the steam reverser and 592 is soon underway. To the right can be seen the down inner home signals, which were constructed to match the original London, Brighton and South Coast Railway pattern. Soon, crossing the River Ouse, as well as the Greenwich Meridian, the engine quickly gets into its stride, as ahead of it lies the 1.5 mile climb up the 1 in 75 Freshfield bank, which lifts the line out of the river valley and into the hills of the Weald. Under a steady hand, 592 steadily works up through the open countryside. Having made the bank, the C-class passes through Linfield Wood. At Three Arch Bridge, 592 gives a warning whistle of her approach into Horsted Keynes. The outer home signal is showing down, indicating that the down train has not reached the station yet, so that the driver of the C-class must wait until the upper quadrant clear signal is given. With short, sharp barks, the engine strains against the dead weight of the carriages and heads around the last bend into Horsted Keynes. The single-line staff from Sheffield Park is handed over and exchanged for the staff to Kingscote.
On the south end, yeah. No, that's what I thought.
With only a short break, fireman and driver make minor adjustments and continue what is now the second half of the journey. As the C-Class makes its way northwards, the Q1 has been given right-of-way to proceed to Sheffield Park. First, traversing the steady climb just out of Horsted Canes, only a short way up the track is the Sharpthorne Tunnel. Upon its restoration by the Bluebell Railway in 1992, at 780 yards, it's the longest tunnel on any preserved railway. Damp and dark, the crew stay under cover in case of falling masonry. Passing through what was only recently the runaround area, 592 heads over New Combe Bridge and on to the recently completed track to Kingscote. Historically, the C-Class 060, with its inside cylinders, is a significant example of the steam locomotive. The Surtees and Wainwright design was to become a standard type for many years to come. With its ornate passenger livery and finely designed lines, it's virtually the antithesis of the 060 Q1 built 40 years later. Fireman opens the injectors and checks that the water has picked up before 592 enters the south points of Kingscote. The driver shuts down the regulator and gently eases into the station. Ahead can be seen the beginning of what may prove to be one of the most challenging phases of the Bluebell's extension. On another day of the Bluebell line, the impressive Merchant Navy class Port Line is in action. The 462 Bullite came to the Bluebell in 1988 for what was originally a short visit, but fortunately its stay was extended to an indefinite period. This nearly 70-foot-long engine and tender was built in 1948 at Eastleigh Works, but as all of the other surviving members in its class, it was rebuilt in the 1950s. For an ingenious idea, Bullite's enclosed chain-driven valve gear caused no end of problems, so was replaced by the more conventional Welshets valve gear. Another regular loco on the line is Mansell's S15 number 847, built at Eastleigh in 1936. Truly beautiful, the Bluebell Railway is not only a favourite with the entertainment and advertising industry, its wide variety of locomotives and ever-expanding vistas continue to fascinate the public.